Eat, Sleep, Boxing, Repeat. Delighted to be joined by Greg Doyle. We are days away from the trilogy Canelo Golovkin 3. We're here to, I was going to say, do something a bit different. We've done it before with the recent Usyk AJ2 rematch, but we're going to do it again. Today we are reviewing the first fight between Canelo and Golovkin back in 2017, so a little while ago now. But yeah, looking forward to getting into it with you, Greg. How's things?
Yeah, really looking forward to it, Eliot. All good. Hope all things are good with you as well. But yeah, I'm so excited about this fight. Two favourite fighters in boxing, but I tell you that every time we speak.
Yeah, all good, all good. I think, looking forward to it. I feel like obviously there's two fights to review. We will review the second fight as well at a later date, but it's still interesting because this one, obviously, for those that don't know, it was a draw. It was a close fight. A lot of people had Golovkin winning. I think it's fair to say. But some people would have had Canelo winning as well, of course. But it's still interesting to look back, and it's always interesting to think, are Canelo's team or Golovkin's team looking back at this first fight and seeing chinks in the armor, or are they just focusing on the second fight? So there's lots of little things to pick up on. We are going to look at 4 key moments of this fight as well. We're not going to review it round by round. We're not going to kind of bore anybody to death, but we're going to look at 4 key moments of this fight. First key moment comes in round 5. So we're fairly into the fight now. We're nearly at the halfway point. Feel like in this part of the fight, Golovkin possibly rocks Canelo for the first time. Canelo possibly feels Golovkin's power properly for the first time. What were your thoughts when this was going down, Greg? Round 5 of the first fight.
Round 5, yeah. It's a strange one, Eliot, because when we both pointed this out and we took this as one of our key moments in the fight, the first 4 rounds, they were energetic, they were busy, but nothing really happened. It was like, yeah, it was tit for tat, to be honest. But this part in the fight, round 5, I think Golovkin knows that he needs to kind of earn Canelo's respect, because Canelo was like the superstar coming through. Obviously, Golovkin is the most feared man in boxing at this point, but he lands that right hand, and there's 2 things that come into my mind. Golovkin thinks, I hurt anyone that I hit, which is, it was evident he'd done it to everyone beforehand, but Canelo had this pride that I'm the next superstar of boxing, so I can't show that I've been hurt. So it lands, it's an overhand right as we watch it. It lands flush. Canelo takes it, shakes his head, and a lot of fighters do that, Eliot, and you think, are they actually okay or are they hurt? And you just see Canelo, he fires straight across the ring, he chases Golovkin back, lands a few shots, and that's what makes me think this is going to be a classic, because this kid is not going to let Golovkin just take charge, hurt him. It's going to be back and forth, so it was a really key moment in the fight for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on. I think moving on quickly, just because we're just going forward one round here.
Yeah.
Round 6, the halfway moment of the fight. I think kind of you told me off camera this was part of when Golovkin started to up his work rate a bit. We're at the halfway point of the fight now. My first kind of question is, how, if you can cast your mind back, how did you have your scorecard at this point? Did you have Golovkin winning, Canelo winning? Did you have it even? I think at this part of the fight, you probably had this friend had this person winning, this friend had this other person winning. How did you have it in at round 6?
It's a really, really good question. I think going back, I maybe had Canelo 1 or 2 up, only because the early rounds were very, Eliot, there wasn't much in them. They were both guys had their successes at some points, but Canelo's counter-punching just caught the eye a little bit more. And I think that when Golovkin came out in round 6, he knew that he had to kind of start looking busy, stepping up his work rate, landing shots that were going to show the judges that, I'm capable. I'm not just here to hurt this guy. I can outwork him as well. So before that, I think that I had Canelo maybe 1, 2 up, but I think that was a big telling point in the fight, Eliot. I think that round 6, Golovkin really upped the tempo, and I don't think Canelo could live with the tempo that he started from then. So really, really important part, probably the most important part in the fight for me.
Yeah, and do you think Golovkin upped the tempo just because he thought Canelo wouldn't be able to live with him with that tempo, or do you think he thought to himself, I need to start convincingly winning these rounds in order to win the fights? Why do you think Golovkin picked that part of the fight to up his work rate?
Yeah. I think it was the latter, Eliot. I think that Golovkin knew going to that fight, he was not the A side. He knew that Canelo was commercially the biggest fighter in boxing. If he was going to beat Canelo this night, it had to be obvious, very, very obvious. And I don't like to talk about politics in boxing, Eliot, but it exists. We all know it exists. It's one of those things. So I think when he upped that work rate, I think he knew the first 5 rounds were close, and I think he thought to himself, and probably the corner said it. I don't speak Kazakh, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that the corner said, we need to start going to work now. We need to start upping this. And I think that's what he done. And, you know, I think that was his reasons for doing it. I think he knew it was close, but he knew that he was going to have to start being convincing at one point, and he picked that round to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice one. No, good stuff. Enjoying this. Looking forward to the next point of the fight. Round 9. I think this is probably the round or the moment that most people will remember. I think, as we know, Canelo landed a fantastic right hand, and I think obviously as we know that would have put a lot of people to a sleep, but didn't happen to Golovkin. I'm just going to hand over to you now to talk me through kind of that punch, that moment, what your thoughts were when it landed.
Eliot, unreal, because Canelo's landed that shot in Amir Khan, and some people can say what they want about Amir Khan, but that basically put Amir Khan cold. It has hurt so many people. He's hurt Miguel Cotto's brother, Jose Cotto, with that shot. It is probably one of the best punches that I've ever seen landing on a fighter's chin, and Golovkin just walks forward, and Canelo doesn't really know what to do about it. He tries to look all cool, like he backs off and kind of goes, lifts his head up as if, I kind of knew you were going to walk through that. But looking at him, you can tell that he's actually thinking, how the hell are you still standing up from that? So it's a really, really good, interesting, important part of the fight. It just does what it says in the tin, Eliot. It's one of those fights, one of those punches that we'll look back on in years to come. You look at Hagler Hearns, you look at different fights like that. There's always a part that stands out in a fight, and that's the one that stands out to me, because Canelo, that is the best punch of his career, and Golovkin walked through it. I don't know how he walked through it, but it's just iconic is the word that I can think for it. So really, really important part of the fight.
You're right. I think going to throw a curveball in there, without giving kind of your prediction away and too many thoughts away. If that happens in the third fight, which is obviously at super middleweight, these two fights are middleweight, does the same thing happen, or does Golovkin not react to the punch as well?
I feel I want to talk to you now about my prediction video and what I think is going to go down and how it will go down, but obviously I won't. I think it's more capable of hurting him at this point in his career now, yes. Yeah. Does it hurt him in the third fight, or does he walk through it? I think there's still potentially walks through it, but if there's ever a time it's going to hurt him, it's now. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, cool. Moving on to the final round of the fight. I think this was a classic final round, wasn't it? When both fighters went in there, both were desperate to win the round. I think obviously one thing about boxing is that we still don't have a system where fighters or anyone else is aware of what the scorecards are. Maybe if they were, they would have gone about things differently. Who knows? But look, I love I love it when it's a 12-round fight and the fight's still in the balance in the final round. There's nothing like it. That's what makes boxing for me. There's a few things that get me more excited, not just in boxing but in life, to be honest. But that final round, again, just going to hand the mic over to you. What were your thoughts going into that final round and how the fight finished?
Just unbelievable. You know, before we touch point on that, Eliot, I want to share something with you. You say there's very little that will excite you more in life. don't ask me why, but see when it gets to the end of the fight, see before like the 10 bell toll, like the 3 thing. Oh, see when they start going toe to toe after that. Oh, I can't even tell you what it does to me. It's unbelievable. But it's just an unbelievable 12th round. It is like the ultimate classic. Canelo wants to win that round for me because he knows he's down, and he wants it to be competitive and close. And I think that Golovkin wants to win that round massively because he may know he's ahead, but due to politics in boxing, he thinks that he probably needs another big, strong round. So both guys go for it. Both guys land flush. It's almost like there's a realisation in that 12th round. Both of them don't know how tough they actually are. I believe that Golovkin knows that he's tough because he's got a great chin, but you really don't know, Eliot, until you test yourself against the other fighters that are at the pinnacle, at the top of the sport. And both guys take things flush in that round. And it's almost like they look at each other like, God, we could have done this 3 or 4 rounds before. And you don't faze me the way that you think that you faze me. And I think that's why we had such a different second fight. But Eliot, what a round. Best round of the fight, without a doubt for me. Without a doubt.
Okay. Fight finishes. They've gone 12 rounds. What's your scorecards? Who do you think's won?
I think Golovkin's won. I think it's a 116-112 job for me. I watched it live that night. As you know, I've said it at the start of the video, but they're my 2 favourite fighters in boxing. It's not even close. They're just so admirable for different reasons. But I did want Golovkin to win that night because I like to see a guy who everybody avoids eventually have his moment and make his money in the sport. I think I had Golovkin 116-112. I'll go back again, Eliot, and we'll watch it again, probably together. But I think that, I think I had it about 116-112 Golovkin.
Yeah. I think that I don't want to say anything too controversial. I think, in my opinion, most people had Golovkin winning. I did as well. Just to touch on the scorecards, I think one thing that marred the event slightly was Adelaide Bird's scorecard of 118-110 Canelo, which was just disappointing because I don't think anyone could envisage only giving Golovkin 2 rounds. Another scorecard had it draw. Another scorecard had it 115-113 Golovkin. But yeah, just kind of your thoughts on that 118-110 scorecard and how that happened.
Yeah, I don't know if you want my thoughts on that, if I'm being honest with you. But all I'll say is, don't quote me on this, but the first thing that came to mind there, and it could be a different judge, but do you remember when Paulie Malignaggi lost to Juan Diaz? I could be completely wrong here, but there is a judge. I know that Adelaide Birdie's had quite a few really debatable decisions, but I think he's been well known to be like a golden boy chauffeur in a lot of fans' eyes. I'm not saying that. I'll be impartial, but yeah, I think that's a crazy scorecard. That's crazy. How can you only give Gennady Golovkin 2 rounds in that fight when it's really obvious the back half of the fight he won the majority of it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think it's a shame because we're reviewing this fantastic fight and we shouldn't be talking about a wacky scorecard.
Yeah.
It's not the first, obviously we have wacky scorecards in the UK. We'll probably continue to do so. But it's such a shame. And I think that, I'll just be honest, if there was a fair judge and a fair scorecard in there, then we could have had a winner. Maybe it would have been a majority draw, who knows? But I just kind of feel like that scorecard's so bad, I almost don't want to count it. And the other 2 scorecards, one has Golovkin winning, one has it a draw. So and it's just disappointing when, as UK fans, this fight was in Vegas. It's probably 6 a.m. by this point. You're knackered, but you've seen a fantastic fight, and then you go to bed thinking, "What the hell was that scorecard?" So,
really, I was devastated. I told you, I stayed up for it and I watched it, and I just thought, this is really going to be close. You hear 118-110 Canelo Alvarez, you're like,
Yeah.
What are you watching, man?
Yeah.
I mean, Elliot, we watch fights and some of them are like really. I'll give you an example. I remember being at Ricky Burns' Paulus Moses, and I think I scored it 117, 111. And when I went back and watched it, I think I maybe had it 118, 110. But you're talking about a difference of a round or two. These guys they're professionals. They're like judges who are so experienced. There's just something not right about it. That's the way I'll leave it, Elliot, is I'll just say there's something not right about it, but that's a terrible, terrible scorecard. Terrible.
Shocking. All right, cool. We'll leave it there. We are going to talk about the second fight at a later date, and then we will watch the third fight in a couple of weeks. Yes. Greg, thank you for your time. It's been great as always. Been great to talk about individual rounds, how you saw the fight, and yeah, looking forward to doing it again for the rematch. I will speak to you soon. Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much for your time as always, Eliot. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Take care.